Hey everyone, stay tuned for this video wrap-up of the Arkansas Shrimp Tank, where you're going to learn how to go from a shrimp to a shark in the business world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Arkansas Shrimp Tank podcast. I'm your host, Rich Jensen, along with my co-host, David Sims, and our special guest today, back for a second swim in the tank, Jim Karrh of Manage Your Message. You know, we're always trying on the Shrimp Tank to interview some of the brightest and best when it comes to entrepreneurial thoughts, ideas, or people who have been there and done that. And we always want to learn from the best and from also the mistakes that we've all made. And Jim, I don't think you've made all that many mistakes, but you sure have a great message.
Thank you for not focusing on those during the episode.
If you want to catch the full podcast and all of our previous podcasts, you can go to, and we just changed it, so I'm going to get it right, shrimptankpodcast.com/Arkansas. All right.
Or you can just Google it, Arkansas Shrimp Tank, like I do all the time.
There you go, because he can't remember it either.
Do like I did and subscribe.
That's right.
Every
That's
episode.
even better. That's
Which
right.
brings me to my next
Right.
point. You can always subscribe on iTunes or SoundCloud or Google Play. So.
Well, we've had Dr. Jim Karrh back on the show for his second swim in the tank. He's wearing his Speedo. Stand up. Just kidding. But his book's coming out September 1st. Career Press is publishing. We're talking about that on the podcast. And really a lot of good content in there. And so just want to encourage you to read this because it is a really, really good book. We're going to try to summarize.
And because he slipped us a lot of money to promote it.
That's right.
Just
That's
kidding.
right. He brought us a case out there. We're going to start handing them out like candy.
Whatever we sell, we get half the profit.
That's right. We won't tell you what the case is.
As you can see, we had a really good time on the podcast, and we wanted to really highlight two areas because they were so good. And one of them, it actually wasn't in our list of questions, but it came up in conversation. You brought it up, and it talked about a confidence in your product or service versus confidence in your message about that. Share with our viewers a little bit about what you shared with us.
And the big gap that I found is even people, they have very good professional services, they have great products that they offer, they have a great cause that they know makes a difference, whatever the case may be. And we quoted some from someone that we both know and know of who's looked at with high-level business-to-business salespeople. And what he found is that on a scale of 1 to 10 for confidence, these people who are dealing in very complex but very good products and solutions, that on a 1 to 10 scale, their confidence in the value of what they have to offer is 8.1, I believe is the number. So very solid. They know that it works. They know that it's valuable. Their confidence in the messaging behind those very same products and solutions was less than 4. It was 3.8. So you have this huge gap in between people knowing the value of what they offer and the messaging or the stories behind it. The reason I find that the confidence can be lacking so much is people don't know the right words. They don't know the right stories to share. They don't know the right evidence. They're not sure the right questions to ask. So they may know their stuff really well, but none of us want to be out of our comfort zones. None of us want to be at a loss for words. How many times have we thought later on, oh, I wish I'd said so-and-so. Yeah. Or why didn't I ask him about so-and-so?
Why did I say that?
Why did I say that? So as a management issue, think about how often this replicates across your organization, no matter what it is that you do. It's just a solvable business problem. And you'll have fewer mistakes and fewer bits of regret and more confidence just by getting a common playbook, kind of a common set of knowledge and assumptions and stories and questions and developing habits and coaching and confidence. It's not as hard as it might sound. It's really just getting very simple and intentional about how do we want those everyday conversations to go.
Yeah. And that actually, was interesting because that led into the second question that I know David wants to talk about. But it's really, we don't think about these things typically in business. We just kind of say, oh, why didn't I get that client? Why didn't I get that sale? Well, everything you knew and all your expertise wasn't coming across in your message. So.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. He's going to talk about that in the next one, the second component. So in the shrimp cocktail section, we asked you to give us give us a jumbo shrimp. You said, I'm going to give you 2.
Yes.
Right? Because I asked, here's the question I asked. You says your book says the science of customer connection. So I said, what is the science telling us about the point you make of trustworthiness, how this managing your message relates to trustworthiness or establishing trust with your clients or your customers and with your own team.
Sure.
And you gave us two jumbo shrimp.
And I don't know, between the audiences I speak to or the people and teams I work with, I haven't found one that doesn't somehow say we want to be seen as a trusted advisor. We want to be trusted in terms of what we do. But here's the thing, you got to understand, what is it that would make you to be worthy of trust? And so the evaluation on the other side of it has really two components. Expertise, that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
The second is empathy, that you understand me as a prospective buyer, as a prospective partner, member, whatever that might be. You understand me and will work in my best interest as much as you work in your own. Expertise is where I find that people tend to kind of overcompensate there. That's the stuff that can go on your website or in your slogans or in those sorts of things. It's more objective. It feels easier to communicate. The empathy part is more difficult. And it's not necessarily your motivation. We want to serve. But how do you get that across without being kind of salesy or just talking about yourself? So I find that the best ways to do that are to tell stories about other people in similar situations that you have helped.
So we're now going to tell a very embarrassing story about Jim, so you can empathize with it.
That's right. We're going to run out of time. We're going to run out of time before we would get to that. So those are the things that you got to get out of that zone a little bit of thinking that your expertise or your contacts and relationships by themselves will be enough. You really have to translate that into empathy, and that can only happen through real conversation.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show again today, Second Swim in the Tank. For those who want to find out more about managing their message or find out more about you, speaking to them or consulting with them, how would they best get a hold of you?
Best way is through jimkarrh.com is the website. That's spelled Karrh. If you could put that in the show notes, the people can click on it. It's easier than to remember. But there are not only information about my speaking and consulting work, but a lot of free resources there, as well as a podcast.
Right, managing your message.
Can they pre-order the book there?
Yes, there are links that you can pre-order the book. It's going to be out.
Kindle and Audible and all
Kindle,
that good stuff,
audiobook will be available. All of that. I think you should get the complete value pack. But I hope I can be helpful as well, because there's so much here that people can apply pretty simply and pretty immediately to their business.
Yep.
All right, so remember, to hear the whole podcast, go to shrimptankpodcast.com/Arkansas. Until next week, stay safe, and remember, to become a shark in the business world, we all start out as shrimp.